Hey, what's up? This is Josh Gates coming to you from the one destination I rarely visit, my house.
Just 1 minute ago, the FBI shut down the Expedition X crew's investigation after they uncovered something so shocking, so dangerous, that federal authorities had no choice but to intervene. What did they find? What was so troubling that it caused the investigation to come to an immediate halt? The Expedition X team has been no stranger to the unexplained, from paranormal phenomena to unsolved mysteries. But this discovery is unlike anything they've encountered before. Fans of the show are left reeling, as the investigation went from a thrilling adventure to a tense standoff with federal authorities. This isn't just another mystery, it's a game-changer. Stay tuned, because what they found could change everything we know about the unknown. And the full story is only just beginning. Expedition X has been known for taking viewers into some of the world's most mysterious and often dangerous locations. Led by Josh Gates, the team embarks on investigations that explore the unknown, ranging from eerie paranormal sites to ancient ruins steeped in myth. Their latest investigation, however, was unlike anything they had tackled before. The crew ventured to a remote, little-known site that had been the subject of bizarre rumors for decades. Local legends spoke of strange artifacts, cryptic symbols, and unexplained lights, but no one had ever dared to investigate the area thoroughly. When Expedition X arrived, they were prepared for anything. But what they found went far beyond their expectations. Early into the investigation, the team discovered strange markings on nearby trees, symbols that didn't match any known language or culture. As they moved deeper into the site, the equipment began to pick up odd electromagnetic readings, something that had been linked to unusual occurrences in other regions known for supernatural activity. But that was just the beginning. When the crew uncovered an old stone structure, partially buried beneath the earth, they had no idea how significant it was. Inside, they found what appeared to be relics from an unknown civilization, artifacts that seemed to defy time and logic. The crew was ecstatic, but the deeper they dug, the more they began to realize that these weren't just relics. They were connected to something much larger, something far more dangerous. The most troubling find was a sealed container hidden deep within the structure. Inside was a weathered, ancient manuscript, unlike anything the crew had seen before. The symbols on the manuscript seemed to match those on the trees and within the stone structure, hinting at a long-lost civilization that had knowledge beyond its time. But this wasn't just a forgotten piece of history. It was a key to something much larger. And as they examined the manuscript further, it became clear that the crew had uncovered something that could alter everything we know about human history, ancient civilizations, and possibly even extraterrestrial encounters. But what they didn't know was that their discovery was about to trigger a sequence of events that would bring them into direct conflict with the FBI. As the Expedition X crew worked to document and analyze their discovery, the air around them grew tense. They were on the brink of something monumental, but what they didn't realize was just how far-reaching their find would prove to be. The ancient manuscript they had uncovered was unlike anything any of the team members had ever seen. Not only were the symbols unfamiliar, but the content seemed to reference phenomena that had never been documented before. Some of the markings appeared to correlate with government codes, mysterious references to unacknowledged operations, and even hints of extraterrestrial involvement. What started as a thrilling exploration into the unknown quickly began to feel like something far more significant, a potential government cover-up linked to unexplained artifacts and secretive research. As Josh Gates and his team examined the manuscript and the artifacts surrounding it, they found their excitement quickly turning into concern. Despite the unease creeping in, the team pressed on, determined to uncover the full story behind what they had found. However, As they gathered their findings to take back to their base for further analysis, an unexpected interruption occurred. The sound of engines roaring in the distance broke the tense silence, followed by a black SUV speeding toward their location. Within moments, a group of FBI agents emerged from the vehicle, flashing badges and immediately taking control of the situation. They ordered the crew to stop everything, confiscating their equipment and the artifacts they had just discovered. What followed was a tense standoff as Josh and his team tried to understand why the FBI was involved and what they had done to warrant federal intervention. The agents were vague, offering little explanation, but their presence made it clear. What they had uncovered was much more serious than anyone had anticipated. It wasn't just a case of investigating the paranormal or solving an ancient mystery. It was a matter of national security, and the crew had stumbled upon something that the government was determined to keep hidden at all costs. The FBI's arrival had a chilling effect on the Expedition X crew. What had been an exciting and thrilling discovery had suddenly turned into a high-stakes standoff. The team, accustomed to navigating treacherous environments and unraveling mysteries, now found themselves under the scrutiny of federal agents. As the FBI agents seized their equipment and began taking their findings, Josh Gates tried to reason with them, asking what was so important about the artifacts they had uncovered. But the agents remained tight-lipped, only warning them that they had uncovered something much bigger than they realized. The sense of urgency was palpable. The FBI's behavior wasn't just about protecting a secret. It felt like an active attempt to shut down the investigation entirely. The crew had never encountered this level of opposition before. Their usual determination to uncover the truth had always been met with obstacles, but this felt different. This felt like a full-scale operation to erase any trace of what they had found. As the agents moved in, Josh attempted to speak with them off-camera, hoping to understand the significance of the find. It became apparent that this wasn't just about national security, it was about protecting something much more profound, something that involved high-level government projects, possibly tied to military and extraterrestrial research. The agents, however, were not willing to divulge any information. They made it clear that the crew had to leave immediately, or they would face legal consequences. Josh, still reeling from the abrupt nature of the shutdown, was forced to comply. The team was escorted off the site, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. What had they discovered that was so dangerous? Why was the FBI so determined to prevent them from continuing their investigation? With the evidence confiscated and their access cut off, the crew had no choice but to retreat. But the question lingered in the air. What did they find? And why was it so vital that the government felt the need to intervene so quickly? After being forced to leave the site, the Expedition X crew found themselves in a state of disbelief. They had gone from uncovering one of the most extraordinary discoveries of their careers to being chased away by federal authorities. As they regrouped and attempted to make sense of what had just transpired, one thing became clear. They had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than they ever imagined. Josh Gates and the team began reviewing the footage they had gathered before the FBI arrived, hoping to salvage something from their expedition. The artifacts, the strange manuscript, and the bizarre markings, they all pointed to something bigger, something that tied ancient history to a much darker, more secretive narrative. But what was it? The crew spent days analyzing the footage and trying to decode the manuscript. As they pieced together the strange symbols, they found references to government experiments, things they had only heard of in conspiracy theories, UFO sightings, hidden military operations, and unexplained phenomena tied to the Cold War era. The manuscript wasn't just a relic, it was a key. It held clues to an operation so secret that even the FBI was willing to shut down an entire investigation to keep it under wraps. The team reached out to experts in cryptography and ancient civilizations, but each attempt to crack the code only deepened the mystery. The experts were baffled. No one had seen anything like this before. But the more they dug, the more they realized that they were onto something truly groundbreaking. They had uncovered a series of coded messages, possibly leading to a government program that had been hidden from the public for decades. The crew, now aware of the immense danger they were facing, knew they couldn't just walk away. They had uncovered something that, if exposed, could change everything, from our understanding of history to the very nature of government secrecy. But the more they investigated, the more they realized just how serious this was. They had crossed a line, and there was no going back. The FBI's intervention wasn't just an isolated incident. It was the beginning of a much larger, much more dangerous game. The team had become part of something bigger than themselves, and they were beginning to understand just how far-reaching the ramifications could be. As the Expedition X team continued to dig deeper into their findings, the reality of the situation became even more apparent. They were no longer just uncovering artifacts or deciphering old manuscripts. They had unearthed something that was part of a much larger, more dangerous mystery, one that was intricately tied to government secrets and covert operations. The clues they had found pointed toward an operation that had been shrouded in secrecy for decades, an operation that linked high-level government agencies to the study of extraterrestrial life and strange phenomena. But the deeper they delved into this conspiracy, the more they began to realize that they were at the center of something far bigger than themselves. As they continued to piece together the coded messages from the manuscript, it became clear that the government had been hiding its involvement in this field for years. The manuscript referred to a classified program that had been tracking UFO sightings and anomalous objects, something that had been buried deep within the shadows of the Cold War and beyond. The objects they had found, the strange markings, the coded messages, these weren't just relics of an ancient civilization. They were pieces of a puzzle that led directly to a government cover-up, one that tied together decades of research and classified experiments. But the more they uncovered, the more dangerous it became. The crew began to receive anonymous warnings, messages telling them to stop digging, to abandon the investigation, and to leave it alone before it was too late. At first, they thought it was just a scare tactic, but as the warnings became more frequent and more direct, they realized they had attracted the attention of powerful forces. The FBI wasn't just trying to shut them down, they were trying to keep them from exposing something that could change everything. The crew found themselves on the edge of something monumental, something that could alter humanity's understanding of history and the universe. But with each new revelation, the danger grew. The FBI's actions weren't just about protecting secrets, they were about preventing the world from knowing the truth. As the team weighed their options, one thing was clear. They had uncovered a conspiracy that had been hidden for far too long. The question was, how far would they go to expose it? The closer the Expedition X team got to the truth, the more intense the pressure became. As they continued to analyze the manuscript and investigate the connection between the artifacts and government secrecy, it became clear that they were on the verge of uncovering something so significant, so world-altering, that there was no turning back. Every piece of evidence they uncovered pointed toward a deep, shadowy network of government operations that had been operating under the radar for decades. The artifacts they had found weren't just mysterious. They were connected to an ancient conspiracy, one that tied extraterrestrial phenomena to covert military experiments. The more the crew dug, the more they realized they had stumbled upon evidence that the government had been investigating UFOs, unknown entities, and anomalous technologies long before the public had any knowledge of these phenomena. This wasn't just about ancient history. It was about a hidden chapter in modern history, one that had been erased and covered up by powerful forces. With each new discovery, the crew grew more convinced that they were about to expose one of the biggest cover-ups in history. But with each new breakthrough, the danger they faced grew exponentially. It wasn't just the FBI they had to worry about anymore. They had become entangled in something that involved high-level government officials, secret organizations, and possibly even powerful private interests. The team knew they were being watched, and not just by the FBI. Unmarked vehicles began appearing around their base of operations. Phone lines were tapped. The crew was getting too close to something that the powers that be were desperate to keep hidden. As Josh Gates and the team made the decision to continue pushing forward with the investigation, they knew that the risks were higher than ever, but they couldn't stop. The truth was too important. And as the tension continued to mount, the team found themselves caught between their desire to expose the truth and the ever-present threat of powerful forces that would stop at nothing to keep their findings buried. Every clue they uncovered only deepened the mystery, but the dangers of exposing it all were becoming all too real. The closer the Expedition X crew came to unveiling the truth, the more dire the situation became. With every piece of evidence they uncovered, the stakes grew higher, and the shadows of danger closed in tighter around them. As they dug deeper into the mysterious manuscript and the artifacts tied to it, they began to understand just how far-reaching this conspiracy really was. This wasn't just about extraterrestrial encounters or ancient civilizations. It was about a covert government operation that had been quietly monitoring and studying UFOs, anomalous technologies, and even possible extraterrestrial entities for decades. The more they pieced together the scattered fragments of information, the more they realized the scope of what they were dealing with. The government's involvement in studying these phenomena wasn't just an academic exercise. It was tied to a deeply embedded network of classified operations, many of which were linked to the military and other secretive organizations. As Josh Gates and his team continued to pursue the truth, they became more convinced that the discoveries they had made were just the tip of the iceberg. But with each revelation, the risks intensified. Anonymous threats continued to pour in, urging the crew to abandon the investigation. They received warnings from individuals who claimed to be inside sources, advising them to back off before they uncovered something too dangerous. But the team refused to give up. As they prepared to release their findings, the FBI intensified its surveillance. The agents were no longer just watching from the shadows. They were actively trying to sabotage the crew's efforts. Their equipment was tampered with. Key documents and evidence went missing. Every step forward seemed to bring them closer to the truth, but also to an inevitable confrontation with forces they had no power over. The crew had no choice but to keep pushing forward. Their findings were too important to keep hidden, but the weight of what they had discovered was starting to feel suffocating. They were in too deep now, and the question loomed over them. How far were they willing to go to expose the truth? And at what cost? It seemed that every time they uncovered a new detail, it pushed them further down a dangerous path, one that might have no way out. In the final hours of their investigation, with the walls closing in and the pressure mounting, the Expedition X crew faced an unimaginable choice: back down and let the mystery remain hidden, or expose the truth at all costs. With the FBI breathing down their necks, the team knew they had reached the point of no return. As they prepared to make their final move, Josh Gates and his crew understood the gravity of what they were about to reveal. The document they had uncovered, along with the bizarre artifacts and cryptic symbols, pointed to a massive government cover-up, one that stretched far beyond anything the public had ever been told. It wasn't just about extraterrestrial life or unexplained phenomena. It was about decades of secret operations, military involvement, and the study of advanced technologies that the government had been keeping from the public eye. The team had uncovered what could be the greatest secret in modern history. As they weighed their options, the crew realized that exposing this truth wouldn't just shake the foundations of what we know about history. It could alter the course of society itself. But, with the FBI determined to prevent them from revealing what they had found, and powerful forces working behind the scenes to silence them, the crew faced an almost impossible decision. The threat was real. The anonymous warnings, the surveillance, the tampered evidence, it was all part of a much larger plan to keep them from getting the truth out. As the team moved forward, they could feel the weight of their decision bearing down on them. This wasn't just about uncovering a mystery for the sake of entertainment. This was about exposing a dangerous secret that could have ramifications far beyond their control. The crew knew they had to act fast. Time was running out. The FBI's intervention had already shown them how far authorities were willing to go to bury the truth. But Josh and his team had one final trick up their sleeve. They decided to go public. They released their findings to trusted sources, bypassing the system that had tried to shut them down. The document, the symbols, the artifacts, all of it was out in the open. The reaction was immediate and intense. News outlets erupted with coverage. Experts scrambled to analyze the evidence. The government was forced to respond, and the truth they had fought so hard to keep hidden was finally on the verge of being exposed. But as the crew watched the world react, they knew that the battle wasn't over. The government would stop at nothing to erase what they had uncovered. The Expedition X team had done what they set out to do. They had uncovered a truth that would forever change the way we look at history, extraterrestrial life, and the secrets the government has tried to bury for decades. But the cost of their discovery was high. With their personal safety at risk and the full scope of the conspiracy still unfolding, the crew found themselves facing an uncertain future. The mystery had been exposed, but at what cost? As they walked away from the investigation, they couldn't help but wonder, was the truth worth the price they had paid to reveal it? The world would never be the same again, and neither would they.